One of my favorite programs is Finding Your Roots. It's shown on PBS in the United States. If you've ever seen it, I hope you enjoy it as well, because I'm going to talk about it a little bit this morning. But if you haven't seen it, it sees us with the host, Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., sharing with his guests the results of research into their backgrounds and family histories that have been completed by his research associates. And during this presentation, people find out about their ancestors, some of whom they have heard about, but many they have no clue about, never heard the names, don't have pictures, don't know anything about them. And some are very surprised to learn that they are related to famous or notable people. And others are shocked to find out that their family members didn't always operate on the wrong side or the right side of the law. There are always surprises, and guests almost always express how learning about their history and their heritage gives them insight into their own lives and choices, trials, and triumphs. Each of us is the result of our ancestors' dreaming. Perhaps of making a home and creating a family, perhaps a better future for their children, perhaps just finding a place to live a life of freedom and safety, just getting by. And each of us, through the years, we carry on those dreams by living the lives that we've been given. When I was young, I remember being very curious about my family's origins. And other than being from the Midwest, because we had a lot of fried chicken, I knew very little about those who had come before me in my family. So one day I asked my grandmother about our heritage. I guess I wanted to know whether I should enjoy going to Oktoberfest or whether I should learn to play the balalaika or some such. I'm not sure quite why I was so curious. And I also was kind of curious if there was anything in our family that might be sort of interesting. And after I'd bugged her with my questions for a while, my grandmother, who was a very practical woman, turned to me with a bit of impatience in her voice, and she said, "Child, we were too poor to have a heritage." Oh. Now, it took me years to find out that her nipping my curiosity in the bud was actually a ploy to cover up some aspects of her own history that she really didn't want to talk about. I know every family has secrets, and my family had theirs too, apparently. And it also took me to realize that fundamentally she was right. She was correct. My family history on both sides is one of poverty and constantly focused efforts to simply survive as best they could. My people did not come from privilege or plenty. There are thousands, millions of families like that all over the world. People who have to move to find safety or to find work. People who have to take the work that they can get or scrape together because they don't have an education or connections. People even more disadvantaged than my people because of race or religion or oppression. People who sacrificed some of their own personal dreams to hopefully assure that their children would dream bigger and better. You can imagine a family like that. Maybe it was your history too. Maybe yours was different. My family emphasized education because that was going to be the key that got people off the farm and out of scraping together a living. Our heritage, individually, in congregations, it always includes people dreaming, boldly or modestly, about the potential of the future. Dreams are our life's blood, and they keep us in touch with our hope. Again, if not just for ourselves, then for those that we love and those who will inherit what we have strived for and created and what we hold on to. In his poem Dreams, Langston Hughes tells us, Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. We often compare church congregations to families. And in those church congregations, there are ancestors as well, those whose stories are told with reverence, for they founded the church and made the way for the first building, the first services, the first minister, the first Sunday school, tons of firsts. Their yearning for a place to be seen and acknowledged, confirmed in their values and desires for the world, and to have a place to celebrate as well as mourn. Those are the aspects that built this congregation, that build many congregations. The ancestral families of this church based their faith practice on a foundation of reason and conscience, informed by the findings of science, and held by their desire for intellectual integrity. While they rejected scriptural infallibility, they did seek to live a righteous life through the callings of the mind and spirit. And I think you can imagine if we talked about our beliefs and our foundations today as a group, we'd have much in common with our ancestors in faith. We are the ones who are here now, fulfilling the dreams of the past, but also creating hope for the future through the decisions and actions that are taken today. We create community spaces, avenues for spiritual growth, and opportunities to be together. We join together in worship to show our gratitude for the wonderful gifts of our lives and to support one another when life is hard or disappointing or tragic. And so today I want to share with you some bits and pieces of the history of this congregation and its heritage. And I think that you're going to recognize some themes and through lines when I share these examples with you. Our church ancestors in the mid-1800s became a community by making commitments to one another in faith, in hope, in a desire to create a more just and equitable world, in a desire to be together in a place where they could share life with like-minded people. And together they developed covenants to express these desires and how they wanted to be respectful and encouraging and nurturing to one another. They pledged their time and their resources to sustain their vision, to support something that they felt had great value for them and for the community. I think these are still the reasons we come together in church congregations, even as the world around us changes and adapts and moves toward the futures. And at times, our ancestors in faith were challenged to keep going. This church started as a vision of 15 families in the mid-1800s. Think back. At that time, Toronto was a rather unexciting, small provincial capital in the middle of the wilderness, with unpaved streets and wooden sidewalks, populated by around 20,000 people. Certainly not the metropolis we live in today, with public sanitation and public transit, city services, tall buildings, and a very eclectic population. However, this very intrepid group scraped together the funds to purchase a small wooden building located on George Street, north of Duke, and they began to hold meetings and services on Sunday. They invited various ministers to come and speak and inspire them. They advertised their Sunday services in the newspaper, and they invited people to come and join them in worship. That was in 1845. In 1862, they added a Sunday school for the children. In 1865, their minister performed the first wedding in the church, and the first christening was also in that same year, but it wasn't the same family. And I want you to know that the church did not exist in a friendly and tolerant faith community for Unitarians at that time. Our faith was considered to be heretical, we were apostates to Trinitarianism, and the building was heavily damaged by arson in 1865. Members were criticized and disparaged for their beliefs and not always accepted in clubs and organizations. There were other incidents over time to detract from the church's open and welcoming message. The Reverend Brian Massengale, who's a Black, openly gay Catholic priest, and I know those words may not always go together well, says that dreams are what propel people to do outrageous and dangerous things for the sake of justice. You should know that that message is true for us today, and it is true for those people who were our ancestors in faith. The folks of Toronto First were always champions of inclusion and equity, civil rights, and helping those who were less fortunate. Early in the 1900s, the congregation spoke out on the injustices experienced by Canada's Indigenous people. They helped with soup kitchens and community clothing drives for the broader Toronto community. They helped with pulpit exchanges and invited other faiths and ministers to come and share points of view and perspectives and beliefs with them. They opened their doors to the LGBTQ2+ community, and the Reverend Duke Gray performed the first wedding for 2 women in 1974. Now, lest we forget the importance of all the people in the congregation, at that time you can imagine that much of the leadership was the men. But the Women's Alliance of this congregation contributed substantially to the church's coffers and the activities and the vitality of this community, helping to provide funds for building maintenance, community social issues, and at times even the minister's salary. The women's efforts with various kinds of sales and tea parties and hosted dinners helped the church retire their mortgage in 1904. And those women also provided significant relief during and after the First and Second World Wars as they supported the people who were recovering in Europe. You can imagine that through 175 plus years, there have been many, many, many amazing, dedicated, and hardworking people who have passed through the church's doors, and many of them are with us now, not the same 175-year-old people, I know, but as an example, Dr. Emily Stowe, who was the first female practicing physician in Canada, she signed the membership book in 1879. The first woman president of the board was Nancy Knight, and she was elected in the early 1940s. Daniel Lamb, part of one of the founding member families, served on the board of trustees for 40 years, while George Rose was secretary for 21 years. And I just want the members of our board and our leadership teams who are here to know that we do not ask our current members to make that kind of lifetime commitment to board and leadership service. At various times, Toronto First has had to make really, really tough decisions about their building. As the congregation's needs changed, the buildings got older and more expensive to maintain, and then the church had to decide to sell and purchase and rehab and move and resettle a number of times. Each of those involved incredible amounts of discussion and decisions which were sometimes contentious and challenging. Each time, the congregation scrambled to find the resources and finances to make it happen. Each time, they had to experience a time of uncertainty and disruption. And we find ourselves here again in that place as a congregation. We survived it before. I think we might survive it again, don't you think? I was surprised actually to find out that membership hit a high number of 873 in 1965. It is not surprising, however, that Because of that, and because of the number of people who were inhabiting the area, Unitarian churches sprang up around the GTA, including 3 additional ones in Toronto. All of that happened because as people recovered from the Second World War and the baby boomers made their appearance, as more and more people sought education and upward mobility, UU rode the expanding tide of humanity as well. And like many churches, this one has experienced highs and lows, growth and retrenchment over and over again. But we've never lost the need to be resourceful and adaptable, creative, and open to change. There's a lot more about this congregation's history that is quite fascinating, and I've had a chance in the last few weeks to be reading about it, and you can get some good chuckles and shed a couple of tears here and there about things that have happened. I just picked out some examples for you today. It's always been a story about finding ways to fulfill the dreams of the people who make up the church, who have hope for the future and the desire to create a place where they can live a righteous life with others who share their values and their faith and their aspirations for a better world. For us personally, for us as a congregation, our ancestors' dreams led us to today. We do well to look at their example and their experience, remembering to take out the positive aspects of that and carry that forward, and then to also learn from their mistakes and their stumbles, hopefully as a lesson to help us avoid those same pitfalls. And I close with these words from Reverend Karen Johnson. Let us be a people of not forgetting. As we gather this morning, let us be the people of not forgetting. Let us practice holding collective memories that might otherwise slip into that enormous void that sucks at and corrodes any future we hold dear. Let us practice honoring truth-telling up from the past that must come fully into the now, lest we falter and fail, lest the whole remain in pieces. Let not our need for comfort or simplicity, for easy forgiveness or false pardon, smother the heartbreak that still needs healing. Let us practice resilience with reckoning. Let us marry memory with promise. Let us dance in the tension we find there. Let us rest in the integrity we cultivate. Let us be partners with the possibility that emerges. It is good we gather. Amen.